Got a lot to be excited about. Whether you know it or not, you've got a tremendous amount to be excited about because we have never in the history of humanity lived in an era where it was easier, more convenient, or more accessible for regular, average, everyday people like you and I to create massive business. And I'm not just talking about network marketing or entrepreneurs. I'm talking about starting up a multi-million-dollar corporation. I'm talking about turning an entire industry on its head. Let me explain what I mean, guys. 15, 20 years ago, if you wanted to create something, a product, and you had to find a manufacturer, and you had to go through the development process, and you were limited on the amount of computing that was available. Today, it's limitless what you can do with the cloud, with infinite computing, with all of the minds. I mean, think about this for a second. If back 20 years ago, you had an idea, you had to find individuals that you had to go find them. You had to look them up in the phone book or network through people, but you had to find individuals that could contribute to that idea, right, in their area of expertise. And they had to be willing to participate. And maybe you found one, but he wasn't the right person. You had to go find somebody else, whatever the case might be. Today, there are literally billions of things connected to the internet. There are literally billions of devices online, and there are billions of people, minds, on the internet now that can all contribute to any idea that you might have. I mean, think about this. 100 years ago, if there were problems that needed solving in the medical field or whatever, I mean, you literally had a group of doctors that could sit together and try to figure it out for themselves. Maybe they could reach out on the telephone and pull in a few other people. Maybe if they were really resourceful, they could, find a way to get a few doctors from different areas together and try to come up with an idea. Today, hundreds of thousands of minds in the medical industry can contribute to finding a solution to a problem, and they can do it that quick. Think about that for a second. Think about what that means for you and I. I mean, things like 3D printing. Are you kidding me right now? Right? I was reading a book recently that I'm really blown away by. It's called Bold. It's really powerful. And he was talking about 3D printing and the impact that this is having, disrupting industries. I mean, think about it. Before, if you wanted to send parts for spacecraft or for the space station into space, you had to put them on a satellite and you had to blast them up into space. Today, they can put a 3D printer on the space station and print their own parts. Think about that for a second. In terms of cost savings and in terms of making things easier and more accessible. You and I can do the same thing. Back when he was talking about in the book dolls, producing dolls, and there was a company that made dolls, and they literally would have to create a cast and a mold and do all that stuff for each individual doll, and it would cost tens of thousands of dollars just to build the molds and the casts for one particular doll. And then they would have to print out, however many thousands of them they needed to print out or make, and then sell in order to make up the cost of just creating the molds to develop that one doll. But with a 3D printer, they can rip off 1 million different variations as often as they want. They can change it as frequently as they want, and they don't need anything other than just the code to feed into the machine. Think about it. Now, this is just 2 examples, 3D printing and the internet, but the world, guys, is radically changing around us. I mean, it's radically changing, and it's changing at an exponentially increasing speed. That's the really exciting part. So we're so not anywhere near as limited as we were even 5 years ago, or especially 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, in finding ways to create new bring new ideas to life, or create new businesses, or be entrepreneurs, man. We're not limited anymore. You don't need capital anymore. You don't need great people necessarily around you that you can reach out and put your fingers on anymore. You can find them on the internet in the blink of an eye. Guys, this is the greatest time in history for us to try to do something magnificent for ourselves and for our families. You got to get excited about that. You've got to wake up in the morning fired up about that. And here's a hint, right? If you don't feel the way that I feel about our possibilities and what's laid out in front of us and what is going to be the possibilities for us in 2 years or 4 years or 6 years, stop watching the damn news. There's nothing but bad news on there, man. They're not telling you anything good. They're not making you feel good about the way things are. Bad news sells. That's what you're going to see on TV. But I'm telling you right now, the news isn't going to talk to you about everything that's right in the world. And there's a whole lot of it. And that's the dose. See you guys.